Thank you all for coming. I'd like to call this school board meeting to order. This is the regular school board meeting on January 23rd, 2018. Clerk Sansett, if you call the roll, please.
Certainly. Member Gorham.
Present.
Chair Kirby.
Here.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Here.
Member Lowfold.
Here.
Member Oswald.
Here.
I am here, and Member Trinka.
Here.
Superintendent Gronseth.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Starzecki. Here. Deputy Clerk Hassler.
Here.
Secretary Dolans.
Here.
And Secretary Thibault.
Here.
And the student representatives, Ms. Carlos from Denfeld.
Here.
And Mr. White from East. Everyone is present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay. Excuse me. Next in our agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Member Sandstead.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move the discussion piece regarding compensatory education from the Business Committee in 10C to the top of the report of standing committees. So first thing at 10, pull it out of the Business Committee and then have the discussion on that and continue on with the Education Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move the compensatory education resolution to the top of the standing committee reports. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then that passes 7-0. Is there any other?
Point of order. Can you repeat the motion because we need to?
I don't know who moved and seconded.
Member Sandstead moved and Member Loeffler-Kemp, I believe.
Member Oswald.
Member Oswald seconded.
The agenda?
No, to move the compensatory education resolution discussion to the beginning of the committee reports.
I think they were looking at moving the agenda.
No. The agenda itself was seconded by, I think, by Member Loeffler-Kemp. Is there any further discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Then that passes 7-0. Next is a reading or approving of the previous minutes. The first is for the regular school board meeting of December 18th. Is there a motion to accept these minutes as written?
So moved.
It's moved by Member Lowfold, a second.
Second.
Seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion, corrections? Nope. Member Oswald.
Forgive me as I'm trying to find it on my new shiny Chromebook. It had to do with the resolution dealing with creating a different polling places for the election, for a non-citywide election. And I don't know what page that was on.
It's Resolution B1217-3504.
It is, but I'm trying to find the page on my computer.
Page 10.
Page 10. There we go. My question about that was the addition of, as I get to page 10, it reads, moved by Oswald, seconded by Welty to postpone definitely this resolution until the January 2018 school board meeting. Upon a vote, the same passed unanimously. With an update of at the January board agenda setting meeting, it was decided this resolution would not be addressed. My concern there is that the board voted and passed unanimously that this would be brought up this month on our agenda, and it was decided against the board's wishes during the agenda setting session that it would be removed. I think the proper procedure would have been to put it on our agenda and just to let us know that you weren't going to be pursuing it, rather than putting an update in the meeting minutes that, since it did not occur during December.
I had that same item written down as for discussion. I think that the consensus of the board was that we did not want to reduce the number of polling or combine any polling places, and so that's why it was done that. We can certainly bring that up later on and vote on it.
Well, my concern is addressed, and I would just say that I think we put a period on this moving forward, and let's not have items removed during agenda setting sessions again.
Okay. Did you want to do anything else? No, otherwise,
that was just my comment.
Okay. Anything else on that meeting of December 18th? Seeing none, all in favor of passing those minutes as written, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then they are passed. And the second was our annual organizational meeting minutes of January 2nd. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes as written? So moved. Moved by Member Gorman, seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then they pass unanimously. Next, we have our school and community recognition.
Come on down.
Good evening, members of the board. This month, I would like to introduce the following people and invite them to come forward. Tonight we have Amanda Holzman, Ashley Stalvig, Technology and Innovations Manager and Coordinator for the Community Giving United Piping Incorporated, Craig Fellman, President of the Jamar Company, Scott Kairola, President of Northland Contractors of Duluth, Kirk Ilenda, Business Development Manager for the Bolt Company, and Sandy Johnson, Manager of Member Relations and Administration for Apex. Mike McParlin from API Group Incorporated was unable to join us tonight. This fall and winter, our high school construction technology students worked with Lake Superior College to build a Duluth area home. It's hands-on work providing real-world experience. Much of it is outdoors. The temperatures have dropped and conditions have become unsafe. Despite the cold weather, our students didn't want to leave the work unfinished. Together, the Bolt Company, API Group Incorporated, United Piping Incorporated, the Jamar Company, Northland Contractors, and Apex donated essential cold weather work gear, including jackets, bibs, hats, gloves, and safety glasses. With appropriate gear, the students continued their work, and the donations were used for years to come. The construction technology program devised a checkout system to ensure that students can access gear when they need it. As mentioned by Apex President and CEO Brian Hansen, our region is experiencing a shortage of young people entering the trades, and many local companies have good-paying positions waiting to be filled. Our career and technical education programs may help connect students and families to attractive career options in the trades. Many thanks to all of you and to your companies for your generous support for students and for this program. You truly are making a difference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If I could say a few words again, I'm Kirk Ilenda, Business Development with the Bolt Company, and on behalf of Bolt and our other fellow companies that were here in the industry, Jamar, United Piping, and Northland Constructors and the API Group, thank you to the school district for having such a program. It's an honor for us to help provide these kids with much needed things for the cold weather, as was brought up. for us, it's all about workforce development. Our future is all tied up into schools developing the next generation of craftspeople out in the field. So for me, it was just great to go up to the job site and see high school students building an actual house. It's pretty cool. And just to see the looks in their faces when we gave them some nice warm construction coats. I even had the chance to tell them how important safety was, so we shared some safety glasses. So it was an honor. We're glad that we have people like the Duluth School District that think this is important, because it's a part of our future. We're only as good as our craftspeople out in the field. And on behalf of the other companies here, we're also looking forward to helping out in future years. So again, thank you for letting us be a part of your programs here in Duluth. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is our audience participation, and I would like Member Sandstead first to read our tools of civility.
All right. The board has adopted the tools of civility according to Speak Your Piece, the Civility Project. And there are 11 tools of civility that we recognize that will provide increased opportunities for civil discourse in order to find positive resolutions to the issues that face our community. These tools include 1, pay attention, listen, be inclusive, don't gossip, show respect, be agreeable, apologize, give constructive criticism, take responsibility, be honest and care for others, and show your evidence, share your reasoning.
Thank you. Now, each person will have 3 minutes, and Clerk Sandstead will have her finger on the button. If any speakers have material they want to present to the board, we'd ask them to give it to the clerks first rather than bring it up to the board, and we will get it later. All right, first person listed is Stacy Achterhoff. Is that? Yeah, it's on. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Achterhoff, and I'm an intervention teacher for your Families in Transitions program. It's our district's program that's designed to serve homeless families and students. I'm also a parent whose children attended Nettleton and Myers-Wilkins and are currently at East and Ordean East. I spoke at November's school board meeting, and thank you for hearing me then. I'm here tonight because after attending that meeting, I learned more about the distribution of compensatory education dollars within our district. I thank you for considering how that money is used in our district and working to align that with its true intentions. I'm housed at Myers-Wilkins Elementary, your segregated elementary school. At a meeting held in the recent past prior to the new school board members being installed, there were discussions around compensatory ed dollars, and I regret that I didn't speak at that meeting. I regret it because a woman representing a PTA flippantly spoke about Myers-Wilkins, and in her comments she said she had a friend whose family attended Myers-Wilkins and that her friend told her we had big feasts there that were totally free, unlike at Congdon where people have to raise money for those things. Comments like this perpetuate a myth that somehow people in poverty are living high on the hog, that we are so flush with cash that we can host parties for families. The reality is our families are in such economic distress that we house a nonprofit that does an enormous amount of grant writing and fundraising so that about once a month we can encourage families that may not otherwise come to school to come and have a healthy meal with their children and learn and play together. Our nonprofit provides great events for whole families and meaningful after-school and summer learning activities for our kids because otherwise they would not have these opportunities. What our nonprofit can't do is provide staffing for our students during the school day. And during the school day, we teach kids, and a high percentage, in fact, the majority of our kids live in poverty. To be in poverty means you are more likely to have unstable housing, limited access to food, more domestic violence, and less job security. You are at higher risk for alcohol and drug addiction. You are more likely to be incarcerated. You are less likely to have quality child care. And our students bear the weight of all of this without adequate staffing to address their many needs that go far beyond basic. And even if our parents don't come to school board meetings and speak their truth, our families want and deserve a fair and equitable education for their children. I completely understand that you are functioning with an inadequate budget, but using funding generated by kids in poverty for kids not in poverty is systemic oppression. It just is. And I'm glad you have the opportunity to right this wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bernie Burnham.
Well, good evening. I'm Bernie Burnham, and actually I wear two hats in our community. I am the president of the Duluth Federation of Teachers. I also chair the nonprofit that Stacy talked about. That's the Duluth Community Schools Collaborative. And at this point in time, we have Myers-Wilkins, we have Lincoln Middle School, and we also have Denfeld, who we are working to grow and hope to continually grow that because it is a strategy to help affect the problems that we see in our community. I want to start by welcoming the new board members. I'm excited to see you up there. We all worked hard. Our members put their boots on the ground this fall and worked hard to help bring you to this table, and we're glad to see you there. I'd like to thank the folks that are continuing to serve on the school board as well. We appreciate the hard work that you do. This is not an easy job. I know that. Usually I bring teachers with me and students with me. This month I don't have anybody with me, and part of the reason is that I was away last week and that kind of time got away from me, and I was at a training for NEA presidents, and I was with a bunch of leaders, union leaders, teacher leaders from all around the country, along with their field staff. As you know, or if you don't know, in today's world, labor is under attack, and there are a lot of things that on the national picture are happening to actually break down public schools as well. So it's a problem. So when I gather with leaders like that, I hear lots of great things and ideas about how we organize and work to protect public schools and do the work that we have to do every day. It's very important. One of the big things that we're trying to bring to unionism, and that I believe in myself, is social justice. It is something that we're working with all of our newer, younger leaders as well. We're growing new leaders within our union to help them find their cause. They will be here someday. I won't be here forever, so we need to find new leaders. And I know that the group that we have, that we're working with, is very interested in the social justice piece of unionism. And to me, what that means is, we are working every day to raise the standard of living for everyone. It's very important. It's important for me to make sure that we provide the best opportunities for all. So, as I think about the comp ed and the funding, I've talked to a number of folks about it. I fundamentally agree that change is necessary. And I understand, that in June there was a resolution by the school board that was in place at that time that talked about making some change to comp ed. It's important. I think we all agree with that. As a leader of teachers, I'd be a little remiss, however, if I didn't question what will the consequences be for the teachers in the classrooms of other students as well. I understand. I'm with you all as far as making sure that our kids everywhere get what they deserve and need. We're in a space and a time when public education is not given what it needs in reality, and we all know that. And I know that before break, we had a lot of things that happened, and as we move into the budget process this year, I have truly asked, and I think I, before Christmas as well, spoke about the need to make it a more open conversation and bring more people to the table to try to work together to not be in the situation that we're in. I've always worked in the schools that received the extra funding, and I remember the time when it changed, when the comp ed funding changed. So as a teacher at that time, I was like, what? What are you saying to me? So it's not an easy issue. It's complicated, and I know you're tired of hearing that too. I get it. But how do we work together to move forward to do what's best for all? So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Do you want me to call? Okay. Next is John Crum. see the thing. Where's the light? Come on. Oh, the red light. Okay. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I know that this is the first board meeting for three of you, right? I talked to Ms. Lofold in the elevator, and she's very excited. That's great, because you guys should be excited. This is an historic opportunity for you. It is a real chance for the Duluth School Board to finally make a change. And it's a change that has been needed for many, many years. For too many years, we have not listened to the people who have needed the most from our education system. They've been talking. They've been coming to these meetings every once in a while, but we haven't listened. So now we have a chance to change this. We can make sure that comp ed funds stay in the schools that generate them. I've heard that this is a zero-sum game. You know, it's class sizes versus comp ed funds. But that's not true. It's not class sizes versus comp ed funds. It's comp ed funds and justice. It's comp ed funds and the right thing, the thing that we need to do. It is comp ed funds that were originally intended for the underserved students of our district. The class size issue is separate. It is something you guys can handle in the budget. You can shuffle things around as needed, set priorities. You can raise money in the referendum. You can fix that issue. You should fix that issue. I think everyone agrees. But please don't frame it that it's class sizes versus comp ed. That is misleading. So as far as consequences go, the consequences are real. The consequences are the graduation rate. Consequences are achievement, personal achievement, academic achievement. You know, consequences are school attendance. Those are real consequences. And those are consequences we need to address with this money. So in short, I hope you find it in you to pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. Andromeda. Thank you. Next is Andromeda Lee. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Andromeda Lee. I went to Harbor City International for a little while, and I went to Denfeld for a while before leaving to do PSEO and eventually get a degree. Equity is defined as the quality of being fair, impartial, and balanced, and our schools are not equitable or equal. Truthfully, by not supporting this resolution, you are sending a message that some students are literally worth more than others. 7% of students at Denfeld took an SAT or an ACT exam, whereas the median across all reported high schools in Minnesota is 15%, and Denfeld's composite mean ACT score was only 19. Denfeld has an alarming number of students for every counselor, and only 8% of all students at Denfeld are enrolled in one or more AP courses. 20% of all Denfeld students are learning disabled. They only have a 78.1 graduation rate compared to East's 93%. There's a 13.6 separation in graduation rates between Caucasian students and students of color. 7.4 of all students were disciplined with out-of-school suspension, and of that percentage, 40.3% were Native and students of color. The school has demonstrated a significant inability to prepare students of different ethnicities for opportunities after high school. Students of color are not encouraged to pursue STEM careers or humanities or teaching positions. They have a limited access to tutors and after-school activities like sports, debate, chess club, robotics, so on. Oppression is the word to keep in mind here. I know that you might think to yourself, like, well, I'm not racist. I want everyone to do well. I want everyone to succeed and be their best selves. But very bluntly, if you are silent, you are complicit. And we say that a lot for a reason. You are contributing to a structured failure by taking away resources from a school that needs them. And by allowing this to continue, you will exacerbate the problem by allowing these great cuts to schools that need the most help. None of us can succeed unless we are all thriving. It's the definition of a society. Our highest has to uplift our lowest. Our bravest must pave the path for our shyest. Our strongest must carry the others. We, together, and only together, can endeavor. So please, do not leave any of ours in the dust. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Linda Grover. Welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to speak here. I'm Linda Grover. I am I'm a lifelong Duluthian, a product of Duluth Public Schools, where I went to Denfeld. My grandchildren are the fourth generation of my family to be attending Denfeld. And I'm here to encourage you to distribute the compensatory education money equitably among the schools whose students generate it. Just as it was when we were in school, when I was at Denfeld, what our children and grandchildren see and hear today will become the foundation of our city and our people. And we have, interesting and endearing diversities in our neighborhoods, east and west. Each are charming and lovely in their own way. But these differences are paired with inequities and disparities in our schools. And this is nothing new. This existed when I went to school there. We Duluthians value equity, and we value it particularly in our schools. We're concerned that schools in the western and central corridors do not perform on the same academic level as the schools in the eastern end of town. I'm proud to be a Denfeld graduate, and I appreciated very much the fine education that I received here and the fine teachers, administrators, and staff at Denfeld when I was there and who are there now when my grandchildren are there. A couple of my grandchildren have graduated from Denfeld already. But I do think that the staff, students, and administrators at some of our schools are miracle workers because they are working on, we're playing on an uneven field. That such educational disparities continue to exist, the same disparities it looks like as when I went in school. It's a disservice to Duluth schools, to the communities and to the future, and especially considering that the state of Minnesota contributes more than $6 million a year in compensatory ed money. This is intended to specifically address inequities that arise from lots of times economic and then social situations, because that funding is based on the number of students eligible for free and reduced lunch. I know it's complicated, and I know that this is only one step in the right direction, that a fair distribution of the compensatory ed money is not going to solve all of this. But it is a step in the right direction, and it is a show of faith. I'll just close with an example here of a curriculum example. Each year, the students at Denfeld and East High Schools are offered, from what I know, a range of classes to sign up for. So it looks like a level playing field, right? Here's the thing. At Denfeld High School, there aren't enough students to fill some of these classes, enough of the advanced classes or enough of just regular, language classes and things, and so they're not offered. This is one place where compensatory ed money could make a difference. Not enough students are signing up for a math class, only 6 are signed up. That is where compensatory ed money, I believe, was intended to shore things up, give those students that opportunity. Can you imagine what it would be like to have that time and attention from a teacher? And I think that's what compensatory ed money is something that could could be well spent in many things, and that's only one example. Thank you so much. I know it's such hard work, and I appreciate all that everybody does. Thank you.
Excuse me. Next is Bob Miller. Welcome.
Sagoli. My name's Bob Miller, and I am here on behalf of the Duluth Indigenous Commission. Last night we had a meeting, and one of the things that we discussed was the compensatory money that the school district receives, and we passed a resolution that I would like to read to you now. Whereas 37% of Native American high school students graduate annually from ISD 709, whereas ISD 709 has reallocated 50% of compensatory funding away from students and schools that generate the monies. Excuse me. Now, therefore, be is resolved that the Duluth Indigenous Commission supports a resolution that each of the 13 traditional school sites that will receive at least 80% of the compensatory education revenue generated by the students at each site, including ALC students attending the traditional school sites. We would like that money to please go back to the schools that generated it. We do hereby certify that the foregoing resolution was duly presented and acted upon by a vote of 6 for, 0 against, 0 silent, with a quorum of 6 being present as at a regular meeting of the Duluth Indigenous Commission held on January 22nd, 2018.
Thank you. Next is Catherine Akbar. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. I just want to start with welcoming our new board members, student leaders. Thank you for your time and being here. It's a lot of work, and your time and energy and commitment to all of you are commendable. I'm a proud public school teacher, and I sincerely thank the community, the district, and the students that entrust their education to me every day. As an educator, I don't ever take that lightly. I recently attended the MLK rally. I listened to a lot of powerful speakers and talented youth. The guest speaker, Miss Brittany Lynch, she gave a historic context between 2 very different videos that spanned between a century. In her analysis, she referred to a term towards the end called intersectionality, and some of you were there, I bet. I think that this term could apply here for all of us tonight. We're standing at a potential crossroads where a decision can be made to build much needed trust with the community by reallocating some of these funds for next year's budget. In response to this request, it has been stated that class size will increase. I would be remiss if I didn't say that this is unjust when the response to a request is immediately that class size will increase. This is divisive. And when we have limited resources, it pits our community, our buildings, and our staff against each other. We have courageous students that make it to school across our district and deal with issues rooted in poverty every single day. Our class sizes have been a concern in this district for years. We need to be a part of creating a culture of support together, not dividing us. We stand at a moment of potential intersectionality locally. We can push ourselves to do more and to be more. Why wouldn't we funnel the resources where they're generated? Why wouldn't we follow state statute? But a bigger question in my mind is, how will these funds be used? As we look at the groups that are represented in here, we can take this opportunity to adjust our funding allocations. I know it's been projected that our district is operating in a deficit. As an early founding member to the Clayton-Jackson-McGee Committee, NAACP Education Committee member, NAACP member, veteran teacher, union leader, I stand with our community and our groups, and I hope that we can continue the conversation of what we can do as a district and a community to create culture of support for our students. It is so unhealthy to divide our staff with limited resources. It's crucial to work together. So here's what I'm asking. If this resolution passed, please consider honoring the state statute that requires that our building and our districts report how that money has been spent. Please consider that. Consider following the state statute, put the funds where they are generated. It's important to work together. The voices of our community, our staff, our teachers, and truly our students. That's what needs to be there. Top-down models don't generate collective buy-in, nor does it bring much change. It often brings more of the same. This is a moment, a potential moment of intersectionality, and it's an opportunity to establish trust. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Lynn Gert.
I anticipated that.
Excellent.
So I'm Lynn Gert. I've been here a few times before. Welcome to the new board members. It's exciting to see you here. I've 3 kids that went to Nettleton, Ordine East, and then I have 3 at East High School. I don't have a lot of, there's been amazing things that have been said. I wanted to come to offer my additional support in returning the compensatory funding back to the schools that generate them. I've looked at the state statute. It's pretty clear to me that the intention is that the funds go to those schools for the purposes outlined in the statute. It's an opportunity, again, 2018, there's never a reason to keep doing things that aren't fair. It's always a good reason to do things that are right, and this is one of those opportunities. Return the funds to the schools that generate them. Allow the school leaders to do the things that they know that needs to be done to support their students and their families in their school communities. This will allow schools to do that, and it's the right thing to do. So I just wanted to be here to say that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Charlotte Gardner.
Hello, and thank you for hearing us tonight. Before I get started, though, I do want to thank Member Sandstead and I believe Member Oswald for working with the community on this compensatory resolution, because I think that's really exciting. I think it's really important. It's why we elected you to work with the community, and I'm really happy to see that. And this is your first for the new board members, this is your first full meeting, I think. So I remember as an elected official what that felt like, and it's a huge learning curve. And I do understand, I'm of course here in support of this resolution. I think it's long overdue. I am thrilled that the board is hearing the community finally. I remember attending the Poverty Forum at Denfeld last fall and listening to the new all of you were elected, and all of you I supported except for Ms. Lovell, because I don't live in her district. But if I would have supported you. So I'm excited to see you here, and your emphasis was on equity, and I'm very happy to know that you're on the board, that you're working with the community as well. And I know when I was a new council member, I was told often when I wanted to see policy changes that it's very complex, there's a lot to this, and I know that that's true. And I do understand that there have been fiscal issues with the board for many years. And I don't take that lightly, and I don't think the community does. But what I have found is that once the policy is set and once the commitment is made, the details can and are and will be worked out. So I would urge you to remember that. And I guess that's about all I have to say, except thank you very much. I'm very proud of my district school board member, Nora Sandstead, and the new board. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Cruz Mendoza.
I won't say too much. A few weeks ago, or a month or so ago, there was a get-together upstairs on people who were told that the district was in the process of developing an equity statement. This is what this issue is about. This is more than a statement that we're talking about now. And I know something about equity because I'm the person who created the Human Rights Commission in the city of Duluth. I'm one of the people who wrote the Human Rights Ordinance for the city of Duluth. So I know something about equity. I'm also the chair of the Education Equity Advisory Committee here in the district. And at the last meeting that we had, I passed around the numbers, the way the money's allocated, the way it's generated, the way what percentage went where, what percentage was taken from where. And to a person, every single person on that committee was shocked and upset. So kind of as chair of the Education Equity Advisory Committee, I'm here to ask that all of you support the resolution that Board Member Sandstead has provided you. I'm not going to give you like a whole lot of numbers, but I will give you a few. At Myers-Wilkins, 47%, some of you know this already, 47% of what's allocated is actually kept in the building. At Lester Park, they get 1,133% of what it is that they generate. Okay, so let me kind of tell you some of what the ramifications of that are. Proficiency levels at Myers-Wilkins when it comes to math is 51%. At Lester Park, it is 70%. Reading proficiency at Myers-Wilkins is 54.1%. At Lester Park, it is 71.3%. Science, 43.3% at Myers-Wilkins, 68.8% at Lester Park. That's an indication of what happens when something is taken from here and given to here. And that is not something that I think this district should find acceptable at all. And, you know, a lot of different groups that are here tonight, and a lot of different groups are like very, very concerned about what it is that has happened in this district and what it will lead to, and hope to basically begin to right what it is that is wrong in this district and to improve the educational ability of everyone in the district. That's what we all want. I think that's what all of you want. I think that's what all of you want. All of you. All of us want that. And I can tell you that there are a lot of groups here, and they're ready to work with this district. They're ready to work with this board. And I can tell you that having been a part of this district for 25 years, very little has changed in terms of the percentages when it comes to the educational attainment of different communities in this district. And I can tell you that this district alone, this board alone, is not going to be able to reverse that. It will take all of us working together before these kinds of changes can begin to happen and to ultimately not exist. So, I ask that in the spirit of unity between people on the board and people in the community that this resolution be passed, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Louise Levy. Welcome.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Louise Levy. My husband Morris and I have a fourth grader at Myers-Wilkins Elementary School. After listening to Andromeda Lee speak, I almost got up and walked out because there is nothing left to say after her articulate, beautiful, powerful words. Thank you so very much. But in the interest of participating in democracy, I stayed. The comp ed dollars should go to the schools that earn the funds. The children who earn these funds for ISD 709 should receive 100% of what they earned. It is increasingly difficult for me to hold my head up with pride and say, I am a Chester Park Elementary, Woodland Junior High, and East High School graduate because of these things that are continuing to go on in this school district. And it's very painful to me to not be able to say with pride that I went to these schools. I mean, I still say it, I'm still proud, but it's increasingly difficult for me to feel really good about it. If there are needs for funds at other schools, needs such as more teachers to reduce classroom sizes, then those funds should be found elsewhere and through other means, not taken from the children who earned them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Roger Gregoire. Welcome.
My name is Roger Gregoire. I come here appointed in some ways by Harvard University. I have a doctorate from Harvard University in education. So I don't I don't come with an empty drum. Do no harm. That's the admonition given to doctors. Do no harm. And I often say that when I start to speak before this drum because there are people on this board who have that medical admonition in their life. Do no harm. I can't add much more to this extraordinary display of data and weight and understanding of the problem, but it only points out, it's a trail to only look at the issues which really we face here as a country, as a city. We must not continue this. We're killing our children. Not just the children who need the money, the small amount of money, but the children who have gone before and become teachers who now think that it's all right to do what happens in the classroom. We have so many issues in front of us as a society. I wish that I could be as eloquent as those who spoke before me, that I had a shuffle of papers that I could put in front of you and state numbers and weigh somehow what goes here. But as a human being, as I call all of us to be human beings, we cannot do this to our children. We cannot do this to our children. Money is not the issue. If money is the only issue, then we should start selling our children. So it's money you want. So it's the few little dollars or pennies that they send from somewhere else that we collect. It's not even the money of the citizens here that we're talking about, but money that comes from somewhere else. To compensate those who have been misused, been abused by the society. I ask you to carefully think about your own personal obligation to the society from the seats you sit in. This is a moral issue. It is not just about the money. It is about the reconstruction of the school system so that every child can become the genius that they deserve to be. Every child. I've been in education longer than anyone on that dais. Longer than anyone up there. And I'm now in my 83rd year. I'm an old man. I beg you to save the children. You must not put your small ideas ahead of the children. So my last comment is to say this. Teachers need to change what they do constantly. They must learn first. Teachers must learn so that they can help children learn. But we have taken this school system and ripped every dollar out of it for mercantile purposes. This must stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Audrey Devine-Eller.
Hello, thank you for being here. My name is Dr. Audrey Devine-Eller. I'm a sociologist of education. I study educational inequality. I'm new to Duluth, been here a year and a half. I have a first grader in the Spanish program at Lowell and a preschooler who will hopefully follow in the fall. I live in Congdon District in a household with a third grader who attends Congdon. I've watched the district since before I moved here. I know the statistics on the educational inequalities between the schools. I tracked the inequalities in achievement before I got here. One of the first news items that I saw when I arrived was on the discipline gap in the schools by race. These inequalities concern me. I want to echo the comments of others tonight who asked you to think about the opportunity that you have tonight to make the right call, to align the compensatory education dollars to the schools that generate them. A move that will say that these students are worth the funding that they generate, that these inequalities are worth addressing, that every student is worthy of the goal of academic excellence. Compensatory education revenue is not general fund money. It should never have been the thing that funds class size. Class size is a commitment that the board can make to the district as a whole out of the general funds. The compensatory education funding is not meant for that. It is meant to go to the students who are underperforming, who are not making adequately, or who are not performing at grade level. Compensatory education is about 6% of the annual budget, if I'm to understand this correctly. There's 94% of the rest of the budget that can address class size. Compensatory education belongs with the students who generate it. As the chair of the NAACP Education Policy Committee, I'm also here to convey the NAACP's executive committee position that these funds should be aligned at 100%, not at 80%, although thank you, Nora, for bringing the resolution. It's a move in the right direction, but they should be fully aligned. There's this saying, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. This is the board's opportunity tonight to make the commitment in the right direction. And to close the achievement gap in the Duluth schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Mary Owen.
So thank you for that list of 11 rules. I'd like to comment on them. Recently at a budget meeting, I think it was a school budget meeting 1 week ago, there was a statement that free and reduced lunch kids are not the kids that are poor achievers. I'd like to see the evidence behind that. In fact, there's plenty of evidence just on the contrary, and that's why the state statute was devised. There is evidence that this school district is failing Native Americans, 37%. It's inhumane. I prepared myself for this so that I wouldn't cry over the statistics like I often want to. Babette Sandman, the chair of the Indigenous Commission, and I have looked at each other incredulous that this number, that this doesn't stop everybody in their tracks. 37%, what the heck? Come on. So you want evidence, that's evidence. I don't know what else you need for evidence. And if you want to talk about consequences, think about this one. We just formed an education alliance, an education equity alliance. And we have new members from the NAACP, the Duluth Indigenous Commission, several teachers who are getting their butts kicked in these schools, and many other community people. In that group is Ms. Sharon Witherspoon. I'll tell you a consequence. The consequence of continuing to ignore your community when they have asked for over 10 years for this to happen is you get disenfranchised people. It is a chore to help bring hope back into this woman who has lived in this school district and seen the disparities year after year after year. This is appalling. Please, please make a change tonight. Thank you, Ms. Sandstead and Alana, Ms. Oswald, pardon me, for bringing this forward.
That's the last person that signed up to speak, unless there are others who wish to speak at this time. Excuse me. Doris Malcolmus. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Doris Malkmus. I am a volunteer member of Loaves and Fishes community in Duluth. And I'm here particularly because I see our little children who are homeless come in on a regular basis over the last 3 years. And I ask myself, who is speaking for them? I think of the chaos and the disorganization that is just part of being homeless. And I think, how are these kids going to have a fair shot in life? Who's going to take care of them? Who's really going to try? And so I am glad to have heard everyone else speak today, but I really want to emphasize how not just passionate, but principled and moral and articulate. Someone in Duluth has been doing a good job educating people. If the people who spoke here today are anything to go by. And I just would like to point out that, or I should say, just reinforce what Cruz said. I can't imagine a school board being able to do this alone. This is a hard task. And I'm just really grateful for all the really intelligent and caring people who are here today to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. The now last person is Kevin Square Brown.
Good evening. So school board members, superintendent, neighbors, I'm Kevin Square Brown. I'm representing the Community-Based School Equity Initiative, and we've been working to address the inequity of comp ed funding since we learned about it last March. We're glad to be here today at this moment in Duluth's history. We're moved by the call for justice that we've heard tonight from so many in the community, and the call that we've heard from in our conversations with so many of you over the past weeks and months and longer. This resolution represents a step towards equity in this one area. There is so much more that remains to be done. And we heard today that there is broad interest in joining you to solve the very real challenges of providing quality education for all our children. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who didn't sign up who would like to speak? Stefan Witherspoon.
Hi.
You're on.
My name is Stefan Witherspoon. I am the president of the NAACP. I'm the community health coordinator for the Community Schools Collaborative, housed at Myers Wilkins, and I also do some community organizing for Lincoln Park Children and Families Collaborative. We have an opportunity to change lives. I was approached by this mother who has a daughter who is disabled, but when she was a baby, she told her daughter that she wasn't. She's had paras her whole life, but she told her paras to leave her alone because she can walk if she wanted to walk, or sit in a wheelchair if she wanted to sit in a wheelchair. She came to me this year on my second day of work, and she said, I can't even go to an after-school program. And I said, why? She said, because there's nobody there to watch over me. She says, I can watch myself. This is so important to many families who have been neglected for so long. On the hillside, in the Lincoln Park area, Morgan Park area. I'm born and raised in Duluth. I went to Washington Junior High and Central High School, and I've seen a lot of people succeed with very little. We owe it to our children to give them all the opportunities they need and the resources they need to succeed. And for the ones who have been on this bus since the beginning, I just want to tell you what my father have always told us. If a task is once begun, never leave it till it's done. Be it labor, great or small, do it well or not at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Dr. Arnie Vinio. So I'm a family practice physician on the Fond du Lac Reservation, and all the gears and pulleys and levers that rotate the universe around and make the planets move around, they put us in this spot here tonight. And for me to be standing here as a physician is a rare thing. And to have Mary Owen, to have another Native American physician in the same room, that's not a room that I ever get to stand in. When I go someplace and there's a lot of physicians or there's a lot of highly educated people, somebody from Harvard that can come up and speak so eloquently, that's a rare thing. And all of us have seen those videos of all the wildebeest trying to cross the stream, cross that river, and the alligators are getting them and crocodiles pulling them down, and they make it across by sheer numbers. I did not get to this point by myself. I did not get to be a physician by myself. I got there because of teachers. We have this, when we're born as Native American people, but I think all people have this same thought, that when we're born, we have this pathway that we're supposed to travel, and if we get to the other end, that's success. When we go to one of our funerals, an Ojibwe funeral, and somebody, Jim Northrup, an author, somebody that dies, it's a funeral, but it's almost like a celebration because he did it. He did what he was supposed to do. But so often we get pulled off by things. We get pulled off that path, and it's hard to get back on. It's almost impossible to get back on. And there are people that are put on this earth, and they go partway down that path and they stay there. Their job is to stay there. And those people are teachers. And that's a calling. And they can bring people back, but they need resources and they need to be treated fairly. Just in my family, I'm the only one that's got a college education. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I have a sister who drank herself to death 5 years ago, a brother who died from complications of diabetes and alcohol and whatever else a year after that. I have a sister who's drinking herself to death. I have a brother who's been sober for 13 months now, and I'm proud of him, but it's been a struggle. I have a sister who's had so much stress in her life that she's lost touch with reality, and I don't know where that's going to take her. So of all of those, I'm the only one left that made it. And I made it because of teachers, and I made it because of, unfortunately, not even because of Native American people or minority people reaching out to help me. The people that helped me were non-minority people because there were no people. There were no Native American physicians that could reach out and help me. There were no Native American or African American people that I knew that were professionals of any kind that could reach out and help me. All of you are in that position. You have the ability to make a difference for somebody. As minority people, we have to cross that river. And it's not easy. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Janet Kennedy. I wasn't going to speak because part of my role in building capacity for communities that are feeling marginalized is leadership. And so tonight I did not see any of the leadership from Health and All Policies. I shared with y'all a letter that I sent today, but I wanted to make sure I read it so other folks can hear it. So I'm Janet Kennedy again. I work on the committee with the Health and All Policies. I also own a business called Healthy Alliances Matter as an independent contractor. I'm a parish nurse for St. Mark's Church, the Central and East Hillside community, as well as the Health Committee Chair for the NAACP. So the letter that I wrote to you really talks about equity. I'd just like to share a little story about myself and what I sort of went through when I was a youngster in school here in Duluth. Many of you have probably heard when I was campaigning in the 70s, there was a petition to keep me out of school. That was here in Duluth, in West Duluth. And so we've come a long ways from that. We have some difficulties in our schools. I think one of the things that we can do today as we step away from the 70s and into 2018 is to make that big, bold step and give the money back to where it belongs. We should not have kids struggling in school. It shouldn't matter where you live in our city. Although we don't have petitions today keeping kids out of school, this is a petition that we're bringing today to make sure we keep kids in school. So as I read the letter that I shared with you all so that the community can hear, and then I'll be done. But thank you all for serving as well. So the letter read, my name is Janet Kennedy and I'm writing on behalf of the Health and All Policies Committee. Health and All Policies is working in collaboration with community partners, integrating health and equity considerations into policy decisions across local and county level governments to ensure all policies have a beneficial impact on health and equity to improve the outcomes of all people living in our community. We wrote sort of a statement that we're in support of the comp ed funding. And so we said that we are pleased to add our support in making a difference in education equity and offer this statement with regards to the compensatory education funds. recognizing the role educational success has in impacting disparities and health outcomes. The Health and All Policies Committee supports the alignment of compensatory education funds with the buildings that generate those funds. The largest factors that contribute to health and well-being are social and economic factors. Education outcomes are an important piece of this puzzle. Where you live and what school you attend should not be a contributing factor in your life expectancy. We are called to do what is right, even if it's hard. We want to thank you for the work that you're doing towards equity, and we believe that our community will survive and prosper when we're all walking on even ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak? Go ahead. Welcome.
Thanks. My name is Maggie Fink, and I am shaking, and I wasn't planning to come, but my heart is pounding because this is so important to me. So I will share that I am a parent of a son who attends Denfeld, and I have been a school district employee for over 10 years now. And I love my job, and I love being in the education system. I love the learning. I love being with the kids. I love it. So I am, and I care about all of them. And I am blessed to be a district-wide employee, which means I can go to a number of schools. And I have been, I've served students K through 12 in this district. In many, so all across the board, elementary, middle school, high school. And I can tell you that they are not the same. And what I mean by that is the rigor that the students should have, and the expectations and the outcomes should be the same, should be similar, the rigor. But when you have a difference in support, let me say it a little bit differently. When you have a difference in the stress levels, I would say, outside of the schools, and then sometimes in the schools too, that really impacts the stress levels and the stressors outside of the schools really impacts what happens in the schools. So when you have teachers who are aware of their the stresses that their students are experiencing, in one classroom where the stressors are minimal, I would say, in terms of they know that the child, is safe and having food and a house and homework support, that sort of thing, the teacher could say, read the chapter, come back the next day with notes, and we'll start writing an essay. And in this same grade, but a different school, different classroom, the teacher would be hard-pressed to say that, because they know that those students, some of those students at least, need a lot more support. And that's where the compensatory dollars could really help. Like, okay, maybe at home there's lots more going on, so maybe I can't necessarily say, read the chapter, come back tomorrow with notes on your own. But we could provide after-school support every day instead of the teachers being strapped to just say, ooh, we now have to reduce it to just homework club for just one day a week because that's all we can staff. No, at that school for those students, we need homework club every day. And the teachers need more support in the classroom. And there's that difference, right, between what's equal and inequity. At one school, to have homework club every day, and the other school not because of the difference in staff. You think, that's unequal? No, that's making it You look at the stressors, and you look at the demographics, and you look at that appalling graduation rate of the 37%, and you look at what needs to happen. And that's where those dollars can really make a difference. And that's what needs to happen. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once. Anyone else would like to talk? All right. Well, thank you very much for everyone who did. Next is on our agenda is communications petition. Are there any?
Yes. Oops, sorry. Yes, there was a plethora of letters that came addressed to the school board from Ms. Kemp's fifth grade class, thanking the school board for the opportunity to go to Starbase training, and they appreciated the opportunity and hope that future students will be able to have the same opportunity. So those letters are spindled if you would like to read that packet of letters.
Thank you. Next we have report of the superintendent.
There's a few things I want to start off with tonight. The first is to say that our thoughts and our hearts go out to families in Kentucky tonight whose students did not come home from school. This is happening all too often in our country, and it's just really hard to even talk about. But I will say that as a district, we will continue to be watchful. We'll continue to uphold our security protocols and our policies, and I encourage everyone to continue to be watchful in the community, to build positive relationships with young people in your communities, and to reach out and share any concerns that you might have, either with school or other officials in the community. As with so many other issues, this is something that we can make a huge difference in together when we work together. So I just wanted to put that out in front today. I also want to thank so many people for being here. I know as a kid who grew up in Morgan Park, I know that Duluth is a community that cares a lot about education and wants to be part of the conversation. So I appreciate everyone being here and sharing their truth and their beliefs in this matter. We are about waist deep in the budget process. We will be continuing that process. There are several committee of the wholes that are scheduled, also meetings with teachers and principals, our quality steering committee, our union leaders from each of the bargaining units coming together, having conversations, as well as district staff. And there will be community opportunities for input on that budget as well. The hope is that we will be continuing this process and have a draft budget for the March board meetings or soon thereafter. And so regardless of what is decided on tonight's resolution, as someone else said, the other 94% is what we're all discussing over the coming months, and it's important that we all continue to be a part of those discussions as well, and to help build that beyond tonight's discussion. So please stay tuned and continue to be involved in those conversations. So this is also Paraprofessionals Week, and I want to take a moment to celebrate their work. So paraprofessionals work in many roles to support students throughout the district, from our Head Start program all the way through high school. But I think when we say paraprofessionals, people might not always realize the scope of work that covers. So we have paraprofessionals that serve as lifeguards, language facilitators, community liaisons, American Indian education liaisons, technical tutors in our CTE programs, occupational and physical therapy assistants, nurses, and many more job titles within the district. So it covers a lot of people who are serving every day and work closely with our students and their families to support the help that they need to thrive, not only in school but in the community. And their work makes a difference in the lives of these students, and they really are seen as heroes and sheroes of our schools every single day. So I just want to thank them for the work that they do and say Happy Paraprofessionals Week. And I encourage others to reach out to paraprofessionals who work in the district to share your appreciation for the work that they do every single day. Earlier this month, Rock Ridge Academy officially opened. That's formerly Woodland Hills Academy. And the building is a huge improvement over the building they were in. Teachers and students are really happy with the new building. And we're planning to host a community open house in February. So watch for details on that. This is an event you won't want to miss, to get in and see the newly remodeled school. I also want to take a moment to thank Dave Spooner, who really led this project and got it done on time, which was in itself miraculous, and for working so closely with our partners like Kraus Anderson and the rest of the contractors that were involved. I know that there were some items that were supposed to take 12 weeks to come in, and they came in 2 weeks. And there were so many coincidences with this project that made it happen on time. I know there's a little bit more work to do in the spring as far as site work and things like that, but everyone's in place and it's operating smoothly. And so we look forward to welcoming everyone there for an open house next month. It's also registration time for the districts for the 2018-19 school year. We recently held an open house for our immersion programs. I heard a few people talking about the immersion programs tonight. It was very well attended. Families have started to sign up for next year, and I believe there's even some names on for 1920. And so it's never too early to sign up for those. Space is dependent on how many students sign up. So the more students that sign up, the more sections we'll have. And so don't delay, sign up today. Our middle and high school students will also be registering pretty soon. The course book is available online. We really encourage families to sit down together and look over that 4-year plan or middle school plan that your students have and make those decisions together. Make sure that the choices they're making are aligning with their career aspirations, but also encourage them to take stretch learning opportunities. We have so many honors and college level courses and those career and technical opportunities that students can really learn a lot from and get a long way towards college and career readiness. So sign up for high rigor courses and make sure that we have the support you need to make sure those to be successful in those courses. I also want to mention that conferences are right around the corner for many of our schools. We know that students who have families engaged in the educational process are more successful, so we encourage everyone to participate in conferences and be a part of planning for their students' goals and for their program and their future. Also want to thank staff. I know it takes a lot of time and effort to prepare for those conferences, and I know that they also appreciate your support through those conferences. I know in many schools there's treats and meals for the teachers, and I know that makes a big difference on those long days for them. So thank you for that. And now, finally, it is time for our student reports. This is our student reps' first regular school board meeting, and we're excited to have you with us. And as we've done for the past few years, student reps will be providing us with a monthly report of the goings-on at our high schools, and from time to time hear about some academic endeavors as well, projects that are going on in school. And so, without further ado, now who goes first? I don't know. Okay, it looks like Representative White from East High School is raring to go. So, Maggie, you'll be next.
All right. Hi, I'm Finn White, and I'd just like to start with a little bit about myself. I'm on the speech team, the debate team. I'm also a member of the exec board at East. I'm a co-leader of International Club, and I'm planning on starting a Harry Potter club in the coming weeks. I'm very excited to be here representing East, and at East, we're getting back into the swing of things after finals. Last week, Hound Pack hosted Cocoa and Cram, where we had Hound Pack leaders help the freshmen prepare for their first finals of their high school career and hopefully make it a less stressful time for them. And then on Saturday, students had a chance to relax at Sweetheart, which had great music and dancing. At the end of January, we wrapped up our Hat and Mitten Drive, which was very successful, and we donated the proceeds to Myers Wilkins and Loaves and Fishes. In the world of sports, our boys hockey team just beat Roseau 10-3, and has only lost one game this year, so hopefully we can keep that going. Our swim team is also doing very well, with Ryan Zellen recently setting a school record by completing the 100-meter freestyle in 47.37 seconds. And our cheer team recently took first place in a competition they attended this Sunday. And this Thursday is East's Night of the Arts at 7, where there will be a chance to see our one-act play and performances by members of our speech team, and we welcome everyone to come there, and there's a $5 suggested donation.
Thank you, Representative White, and that was a great first report. Representative Carlos from Denfeld High School.
Yeah, so I'm Carlos, and I'm in NHS, Link Crew, and Key Club. I'm also on the dance team, and I'm going to be one of the tennis captains of this upcoming year. And then to start off, I'd like to thank Superintendent Gronseth on behalf of students, teachers, and probably most of the district for our day off. And I'm sure we wouldn't be opposed to having any more. And on January 12th, we proclaimed CJ Ham Day, or Minnesota Vikings Day. And even our most diehard Broncos and Green Bay fans dressed up in purple to support our Minnesota team and Denfeld alumni. And then we had Cocoa and Cram on January 16th to prepare students for their finals and to get any last-minute help from link leaders and teachers. And we had a total of about 250 students attend. And then speaking of finals, we had open lunch for students, and I'm happy to report that all went well and that we were good neighbors in our community. And there's been a lot of suits and ties and heels running around the halls of Denfeld for our senior scholarships, so good luck to all of our seniors. And debate, we had 2 state qualifiers, both Quinton Romoldi and Autumn Zierman, and they took 10th place out of 24. And then on February 5th, we're going to be having our orientation for our class of 2022, and I know I'm excited to see all of our new faces for Denfeld. And I also have these for everybody. So on February 6th, we're going to be launching our DASH program, which is Denfeld After School Happenings, which will be ranging from academics to personal wellness to activities and athletics. And then as you can see on the little brochure, that DTA bus passes will be provided and that all the classes are free. And then finally, we're going to be having our Fine Arts Night on February 8th, showcasing Denfeld's music, arts, and theater. And I would like to invite everybody to come. And I'm just really excited for this upcoming year being Denfeld's student representative.
Thank you so much, Representative Carlos. And this is a great example of some of our full-service community school projects as well. I do have a true confession that I was with the school board at the annual MSBA Leadership Conference on the snow day, and it was actually Dr. Carey, the Director of Curriculum, who called the snow day, so he deserves the credit. He did call me very, very early just to verify, but he was certainly in charge of that. So that completes the superintendent report for January.
Thank you. It's been an hour and a half since we started, and before we get into the committee reports and resolutions, I'd like to call a 5-minute recess, if that's all right with everyone. Thank you.
Killers.
It's just, yeah, at this point, it's like you're
But we went till 7:40 or 7:45. I texted you when I was the last to sign up and I went. So I texted you then and then you left.
And by the time I got here,
It is.
Oh yeah, you are. Is there a toilet? Hey Lana, is there a toilet near? Bathroom nearby?
down the solid.
We're going to do the resolution.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It's the same
miserable.
I think it will. I don't think you have to see.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
So given that better not to be right? Like that way. So the household that I mentioned is we're living in with good friends. So it's a very good situation. Well, you can stay there. Okay, good. You know, it might have been a choice of so, I don't know, we have a if it goes well, we can do that in a month. Is your sense that I've asked for some answers. He's asking for advice. To. Well, likewise. Sounds good. Let's do it. He must have, I guess. Yeah. I must have snuck out. Are they going to talk about it? They did vote to move it earlier, but I don't know when they yeah, this is my first day. And I haven't even looked at the agenda.
All right, thank you. We're going to discuss the resolution for compensatory education as we discussed when we approved the agenda. And so I'll turn this over to Member Sandstead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to give a very brief background and then I'll read the resolution. And this original language came from the equity group and took an input from a lot of folks along the way and is even being a little bit more streamlined this evening. So I don't really have anything else to add because you guys said a lot of wonderful things to move this forward. And so here it is. I'm going to move Resolution B-1-18-3520. Whereas the Duluth Public Schools recognizes that to achieve the paramount community goal of increasing the preparedness, achievement, and success for students who are presently underachieving, it is important that compensatory education funding be employed to meet the educational needs of these pupils. To that end, the school board establishes the following parameters for expenditure of compensatory education revenue. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in fiscal year 19, each of the 13 traditional school sites, Denfeld High School, Duluth East High School, Ordine Middle School, Lincoln Park Middle School, and elementary schools, Congdon, Homecroft, Lakewood, Lester Park, Lowell, Laura MacArthur, Myers-Wilkins, Piedmont, and Stowe, will receive at least 80% of the compensatory education revenue generated by the students at each site. Be it further resolved that in each of the subsequent 2 years, the minimum percentage of compensatory education revenue to be allocated to each of these 13 identified sites will be increased by 5%, reaching 85% in fiscal year 2020 and 90% in fiscal year 2021 and beyond.
Second.
So it's been moved by Member Sandstead and seconded by Member Oswald. Is there any discussion? Member Trinka.
I have a question and then a comment. Just a brief question about ALC. So we're anticipating that the education revenue generated by those students attending traditional students' school sites, we're assuming that that's part of this as well, correct?
Yeah.
So the ALC funding is supremely complicated, especially when you have students going between some of the traditional sites and ALC, and so we're leaving it out at this point. Not to say that it won't stay with ALC students, but to say that we're not going to try to manage it within here.
Okay, thank you for that. And I want to echo what Member Sandstead said, giving gratitude to all of the community groups who have worked so hard on this over the course of the last year and a half, who have been exceptionally patient with those of us with our learning curve, and for all of you who spoke tonight. So thank you very much.
Member Oswald.
Thank you, Chair Kirby. I've spent many, many hours involved in numerous conversations with community members and community groups and people that are newly interested in advocating for students in our school district. The community speaking up, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you that have found a new or renewed interest, and I hope we can give hope to those that have repeatedly come to our table only to be disappointed. I fully intend this not to be a disappointment. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of numbers thrown out, a lot of passionate and courageous people speaking. I'm not going to rehash any of that. It's all true. It's all from their heart. I just want to say to the schools that potentially will lose some money, know that I am personally committed to make sure that they get the money that they need to help their students maintain being successful some way, somehow. I need and feel responsible for giving voice to those many groups that spoke with me, some of which showed up here today, that insists the only equitable approach is 100% funding, and that funding remain 100% where those funds are generated. I know our resolution that was just read does not go that far, and I want to make that promise to the community right now that I will encourage and pursue and push our board to get to that 100% mark as soon as possible. And if we can't make it there, then you need to push us even harder. Equality thinking has not worked for us this far. The status quo is not equitable to those that are falling behind. It's time to stop talking about it and fund it. We can be leaders and courageous in what we're doing tonight. Perhaps maybe other school districts will follow because we're doing the right thing.
Thank you. Member Lofald.
So I too want to reach out. I know how hard it is to get up and share your stories, your thoughts, your ideas. As a long-term public speaking teacher and coach, I think I made a comment to one of our speakers that sometimes we'd rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. And so I appreciate the strength and the courage for our community to come out and share their ideas. I'd also like to just, there was so many eloquent conversations tonight, so much passion and so much intelligence and willing to share that I feel challenged to just select a few. But I did make some notes on a few of our speakers that I felt had significant things that would help me frame my decision tonight. So first of all, I want to thank Bernie for speaking on behalf of many hats you wear. And it's not going to be an easy conversation. I am a retired teacher. I understand the challenges that happen in classrooms, and I understand the support of teachers and staff beyond just teachers, but all of our paras as we celebrate their week and their work this week. And so it concerns me of the implications that a policy change would have on our staff. So I'm glad to hear your voice with us tonight, and I appreciate it and respect it so much as we've worked together. You did say something about hoping that we can do it, and I think that we were elected. I was elected because I think my constituents saw positivity in my voice. I'm going to continue to be positive. It might be naive to some, but it's not. I am positive that with the decisions the board will make tonight, that we will move forward and we will work together. And what needs to be done because of decisions made tonight, I am challenging you that are here to make sure that we stay together, that it's not over tonight. And so Bernie, I like what you said about we can do this and work together so that it is a benefit and a really historic moment for all of us. Our second, there were so many speakers, but Catherine Nakbar, you just captured so much. It can't be a class size versus a comp ed. It just cannot. It will divide us. And Bernie, then that will divide our passion for our staff. So I urge our budget leaders, I know it's not easy, but I kind of look at this like how Member Sandstead framed it for me so well before I even took the board seat, that it is, you address comp ed, you put that in your budget first, and then I would challenge my leadership, and I know it's going to be tough, and we have more conversation to have, but then you put class size second. That doesn't compromise, we put that in the budget as well, that we're going to hold to a class size in K through 5 at 27, and then we address other concerns from there, and we make that a budget focus. So it's not a class size versus a comp ed. That's unfair, and I will challenge us, and I know Mr. Hassler and Superintendent, I just know that we have to do the hard work as well. Audrey Devine Eller, thank you. Thank you for coming forward. Thank you for your leadership and coming to Duluth, and we want to make a welcome to you in our community. We should be at 100%, like Alana Oswald, Member Oswald says. So we ask for a little starting place so that we can begin the hard work. So thank you. And last, I just want to celebrate Maggie, and thank you for coming forward. You know, too, as I do, that what happens inside or outside our classrooms is affecting it, and the stressors that are in some of our buildings that are different from other buildings was so eloquently stated for you. So thank you. Thank you for all of the conversation. My last bit is directed towards Mr. Hassler a bit. I'm committed to 80%. That's where I know my support will go. How you get there is going to be a little bit of your decisions. I think there is some complications, some financing that I don't even understand that will allow us to, the end product, what I want to see at the end of our 13 schools with their comp ed is that what they generated is at 80%. And what A and B might be different. You might start at 70%, and that bottom column of the leftover money that you will then regenerate to the 13 will then bring the number that they are going to receive to 80%. I don't pretend to be a fiscal scholar, but there's my observations. There's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gorham. Excuse me, Member Gorham.
Thank you, Chair Kirby. In preparation tonight for my first board meeting, I was kind of mulling through everything, going through it over and over again, and a little bit anxious, of course. And my daughter, who's in 3rd grade, I think gave the best advice. Daddy, just go up there and tell them what you told them when you were campaigning to get elected. And isn't that ever true? The reason I'm sitting here and the reason I wanted to be sitting here is because, if you don't know my story, I work in public health. And the issue that I'm most passionate about is health inequities, the social determinants of health. And that's what really drew me to the school board and education. And it's so important. It's so foundational to the future for all of our students. And so I think that supporting this resolution is the right thing to do for our students. There will be challenges in getting to that 80%, and I acknowledge that. But it's worth it. It's the right thing to do in my book. So thank you for all the community members who showed up tonight and the support. And speaking for myself, since this is my first meeting, I think this is a first step. I think there are many more after this. And we'll need that community with us to get this ship right. Thank you.
Member Sandsted.
I lied. I have a few more comments. I wanted to thank my colleague, Member Oswald, for being a strong voice on this for a long time now. And I also wanted to say, I forget who it was, talked about accountability and specifically those pieces that are even written into the statute. That the sites that get these funds are supposed to have teams that decide how they are going to be implemented and best used. And I'm going to look for a report back on that. We can maybe put it on the agenda for the fall to hear how each site has decided to use these funds. And we can look forward to that. And I also want to encourage everybody who's gotten motivated and involved and maybe come to your first school board meeting or within the last year anyway, to continue to stay involved and to offer to help out, because this is going to be a group effort as well. So thank you.
Superintendent.
Yeah, I was going to speak to what Member Sandstedt just said. As we've been discussing this as a cabinet team on the education side, we've been talking about how our continuous improvement teams are a perfect fit into this, and the site improvement plans that each school develops. And I know for the last couple of years you've had a report from each site on how they plan to spend their discretionary funds. And now we're going to expand their continuous improvement plans to say how they're going to fund each strategy and then what the measurement of success is afterwards. And so we're still in the development plan. We're going to work with principals to kind of explore that a little bit farther, but we're already walking down the road.
Member Lofold.
And I want to just reiterate as well that I agree with Member Sandstedt that we need accountability in the how as we go forward. And again, I just want to challenge my community as we look at our work ahead of us. We're going to be having, it's hard. One of our thoughts would be to delay the vote and hope that we would have listening sessions and input from a variety of places. But as I kept going back to the issue of, I think it's important to put our comp ed realignment in the budget first and then work through that. So that means that we will be continuing to have meetings within our communities and in our neighborhoods, and we're going to ask you to come to those. Because what's going to happen is the budget is going to have to be discussed. We're going to have to look at what is going to give. Where are we going to go to make sure that we have what we need next fall? And the timeline is tight. So community, keep working with us, keep attending our meetings. We have to have listening sessions so we know how we're going to go about making the reductions we need, and I'm sure that the school sites and the continuous improvement plans will also do that. Thanks.
Member Lifter-Camp.
Yep, thank you. I first just want to again thank everyone, as other speakers have said, for coming, for showing up, for being persistent, and for speaking in so many ways tonight and at other meetings as well. And I've been in your seat as a parent for the last 24 years in the district, and speaking and listening and working on a lot of different issues with many of you that I look out and I've heard speak tonight. In June, like 4 other board members that are sitting up here, did vote unanimously to support a resolution about redistributing our comp ed. We voted unanimously, and I supported that resolution, and I stand by that, my support for that resolution and my commitment to it. I have struggled a little bit with this particular resolution because of where we're at with our budget process and the many unknowns that we don't have, and that we haven't really heard from our principals and our leadership teams on. We're starting to hear from them every month and getting a better sense of the schools and the needs. And I would have preferred to have heard more from our principals and our leadership team on what this would mean, both what it would mean with the money and what it would mean without the money. And so I've struggled a lot about making a decision without having what I feel like I needed is more information. I'm going to support this because in my heart I have supported redistributing comp ed funds, and I voted in June to see that happen, and I'm committed to seeing it through. But I do want to share, I feel like we need lots more discussion with our leadership teams in our schools and our principals across the district on how this money will be used and what are the needs and what are the impacts, because there are impacts on staffing, on programming, and yes, on class sizes as well. And so I will support this, but I need to be real honest that I have concerns about not having some of the information we need to have a good process, and we're also just going into our budget process. And like Josh mentioned about campaigning, when I campaigned this fall, people said to me, what we like about you, Rosie, is we like that you're thoughtful, you're deliberate, you bring in a lot of people in the discussions, and you think district-wide on the budget, even though I'm a district representative. And so I want us to move and redistribute our comp ed funds, but I want the process to be good. I want it to involve people. I want it to involve our staff that are going to be dealing with the consequences of this, both having more money and having less money. And I struggled with it, not because I didn't support it, but because I want a good process in how we move forward with the rest of our budget as well. I guess that's all I want to say for right now.
Thank you. I will talk. Excuse me if I cough. I think that it's been, excuse me, people have said that we need to make a decision because we're not, or you're not supporting this. The board, as Member Leffler-Kemp said, voted unanimously to support this. We were to align comp ed funds to the schools where they were generated. This was done after the adoption of the last budget, which was balanced. There's been no change in this board's dedication to this process as far as I'm aware. And now we have a call for 80% of the funds for next year, and I might support this as written. I might say it should be 90%, or as Member Alana says that it should be 100%. But I feel that I need, and our community would benefit from, a little bit more information and data from discussion of all the people who would be affected. The teachers, the staff, the principals, students, other community members. I met with some members of the Equity Committee before this ever started and mentioned some of these concerns, and the response I got was, well, this is our story. They can tell their story. Well, we've heard part of the story, but we haven't heard everybody's. Now, maybe it's because they don't want to tell it, or they don't have a story to tell, and that's fine. They don't have to. But I don't think that we've heard everything, and I think that further discussions would help people learn. It's not winning. It's not a debate. It's not like in law with the court where there's one winning and one losing side. That's not the issue. Maybe it's what Catherine Nachbar was talking about. We can use this to learn. We do have a budgetary process, and we have a large deficit. $3 million, it's unclear at this point. We need more information about that. When this was initially passed, that was not the case. It's true, as Member Sant said, as others have said, that this comp ed does not contribute to that deficit. I realize that. But any kind of realignment, given this huge deficit, does have consequences. It has real consequences. We have time to look at the ramifications of this. Passing this resolution, or one that says 90% or 100% tonight, is not going to make any difference tomorrow. We have time over the next couple of months to do this. The ramifications and the budget isn't going to take effect until next year, and I think that the budgetary timeline we have gives us a chance to get some more information. I would like to not defeat this. I would like to just defer a vote on it. And that doesn't mean I don't support it any more than not supporting immediate removal of rubber mulch meant that I was against kids' health. It was not the case at all. It was a process that took time. I'm all for kids' health, everybody's health, especially my own tonight. But, excuse me, I don't think that deferring this vote really means that we don't support this. I think that's unanimous. So I would throw it out there for what it's worth. I would offer an amendment actually to definitely postpone, which means defer this vote on this resolution until March. Say that's 2 months. It gives us time for for conversations for budget, and it may be at that time we say, well, we need 90%. We can deal with this at 90%. So I would make that a motion that we definitely postpone this resolution until March. Is there a second? Member Trinka?
No, I just want to make
a comment. Sir, is there a second? Need a second first.
I second it for discussion purposes.
Thank you. All right, now Member Trinka.
Member Lofald's ahead of me. I certainly appreciate that perspective, Chair Kirby, and it's similar to Member Loeffler-Kemp's kind of back and forth around this. I guess my consideration is kind of twofold. From an equity standpoint, I think we need to make the statement to our students that they're worth it. We heard from a parent last week speaking about their child who has special education, who has special needs, and she said, I feel like there's always a dollar sign attached to my child. And I think we're moving that argument over into the compensatory education conversation as well. I want to echo what was previously said about Catherine Nackbar's perspective on really doing this as a part of a team and not pitting each other against one another. I think that we can kind of belabor this and talk about this over and over and over again, or we can act, recognizing that we're not acting within a vacuum. I think now is actually a really appropriate time as we're going into the budget process to recognize that this isn't an addition to our house. This is the foundation of what we believe that our students deserve in our district. And so I think if we go to administration and say, here's what we're asking for, if we ask for 80 and they give us 90, hallelujah, that'd be pretty great. But I don't anticipate that will be happening based on our budget shortfalls, but I worry that we're seeking perfection and in the way we're sending a wrong message. And we know that every system is perfectly designed to achieve the outcomes that it achieves, and we know that the system isn't working. And so I would really like to call on the leadership up here as school board members to move on this vote tonight.
Thank you. Member Oswald.
Thank you, Chair Kirby. I see no difference in voting on this now, tonight, or postponing it until March. Excuse me. I believe that the outcome will be exactly the same. We will pass it. So let's do it now while we have our community here to witness our choice of being brave, of standing up for what we believe in, and for what all those little signs say. They want equity now. There's no better time than today.
Member Lofald.
So Member Oswald kind of got in there before I did, because that was actually what I was going to say too a little bit. But there was a statement made, and I know it has consequences. But from some of the meetings that I attended earlier, and we already have consequences. We've had consequences because of how we've used it, and it hasn't been equitable. So when we say it has consequences when we vote this through, we've already had consequences for years in some aspects. So that's, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Because we have civility, and I shouldn't say that. It's my first meeting too. So the other thing I would say is, again, kind of like what Member Oswald said, I'm not so sure if we put it out in March. I'd like to get it out now. Some of us say that that we need more input from our principals and from our schools. And I have talked with a number of the principals, and so I feel like I have gotten some input. There's still more, always. This is a process. So I don't expect the conversation to not be continued, even if we're still talking about the 80% realignment. So I'm not in favor of delaying the vote or laying it on the table, because what we could do, which I also know isn't always strong in a way, it depends on how you look at it, like we could pass this resolution tonight on an 80% realignment, and if something dire happens and we need to step it back to 75%, I know some might see that as a weak board, like what do you wishy-washy, you go back and forth, and what are you thinking? And I see it as a strong act of our commitment to keep working on this. And it would be a brave board that looked at the budget in March and decided that, you know what, 75 is what's going to happen. And again, we've got a lot of budget talks ahead of us, and we've got a lot of community. We've got referendum coming, and we've got to pull together. And so this has got to be a unifying work we do.
Thank you. Any other? All right, then I guess the amendment I made is on the floor. If there's no more discussion, all in favor of, what did I say? Definitely postpone the motion till March. Say aye. Aye. And opposed to that, say nay. Nay. Any abstentions? Then that is defeated 1-6. And then any further discussion on Member Sandsted's initial motion? Seeing none, we can vote on that. Then all in favor of Resolution B 118-3520, and perhaps this will, maybe you want to read that, not all the whereases, just the therefore. Yep, go ahead, just so we can get, Melanie can get that.
Therefore, be it resolved that in fiscal year 2019, each of the 13 traditional school sites will receive at least 80% of the compensatory education revenue generated by the students at each site. Be it resolved that in each of the subsequent 2 years, the minimum percentage of compensatory education revenue to be allocated to each of these 13 identified sites will be increased by 5%, reaching 85% in fiscal year 2020 and 90% in fiscal year 2021 and beyond.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor of this say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Then this will pass unanimously. Thank you. Why don't take that from the referendum fails. I would encourage you to stay for the rest of our meeting. We have other important things. Member Trinka, maybe you want to give the business since we started with this, or would you rather? Okay. So we'll go with the business report next then.
Great. So briefly, a review of our business committee meeting last week. Oops, sorry, you guys thought you could leave. And just as a reminder for folks in the room, we received financial reports that were standard financial reports. We did not receive any budget projection numbers at that meeting. That was a later meeting. So all of the financial reports that were presented were standard. There were no bids or RFPs to report out on. We did discuss a number of policy changes where, per the Minnesota School Board Association's recommendations, we're changing the word policy to bylaw, and that will require further conversation at further meetings, if I'm remembering that correctly. And really the impact on that is the number of votes that it would take to change that bylaw. So it would be more than a simple majority. Let's see. Looking at contracts, change orders, and leases. We had a good conversation about designing and conducting a survey of Duluth School District residents ahead of the planned upcoming 2018 referendum. And that was a good conversation. Do we need to say anything about that? No.
If you want to have more discussion about it, then you pull it after
Okay.
you go through it.
Great. We had a really good report on the construction, as Superintendent Gronseth mentioned earlier, out at Rockridge and received some updated information about some new bidding processes that the school district is utilizing, and we are thrilled about. Other than that, the majority of the conversation, if I'm remembering correctly, focused around the compensatory education reallocation. So anything, that's generally what happened during the business committee.
The resolutions?
We have to go through the resolutions.
So that you do those separately and take a vote on each one.
Do we need to vote on Morris Leatherman? Do we need to vote on Morris Leatherman? That contract?
That would be part of the...
I know, I'm
just a general business committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
My computer's just a little slow.
So, page 87.
Yep, I got
Page
it.
87,
I'm just looking for
acceptance
the
of donations.
resolution number. Sorry, first time.
It's on the bottom.
I don't see it. I must be seeing something different.
B1, 18,
Oh, yeah.
35,
Sorry.
19.
Thank you. All right.
You're doing fine.
My
Take a
mother's
deep breath.
really proud of me right now. All right.
All the people left, so.
Thanks. So we discussed Resolution B-1-18-3519, which was a discussion around a resolution of acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools. And I'm reading all these, right?
You should read the resolution and just move to accept it.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Kirby. Whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires the school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to those various individuals and organizations. And I'll move to approve that resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Sandstedt. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting Resolution B-118-3519, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And so the next one would be,
We're going to skip 3520, right?
we did 3520,
Yep.
so it's 3521.
All right, so now we're looking at Resolution B-1-18-3521 on the 2018 legislative platform. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the attached 2018 Duluth School District legislative platform be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B-118-3521, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then this passes unanimously. I think there were no other resolutions, were
Nope,
there?
that's the last one.
So then do you move the acceptance of the business
I
report?
do move for the acceptance of the business report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Leffler-Kemp. Any discussion on any items here? Seeing none?
Didn't you want to discuss the Morris Leatherman contract?
Oh, I didn't want to. I did my due diligence.
Excuse me. All right, all in favor of accepting the business report as described, say aye. 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 Opposed? Then this is passed. Thank you. Next, we'll go to the HR report. Member Gorham.
I'm lucky. I have the shortest report to give, I think. So, yeah, I'll take that as a newbie. Mine should go smoothly. So at our HR, not that yours didn't go smoothly, but you have a lot on your plate. I'm sorry. Not well stated. This microphone thing, I don't know. Anyways, the HR committee report from January 2018. Just really briefly, we had 2 pages of staffing report action items, briefly discussed and questions answered. There was potential for action items in the future of approving hourly wage rates for hourly employees. That's an ongoing conversation that Member Oswald is having with Human Resources to work through some barriers to work on getting that done and before we can move it forward. So that's ongoing. At the committee meeting, we did review the 2015 pay equity report, and a new one has been generated for 2018 that was made available to us via email. And looking at all the indicators, if we approve this report today, we would submit it to MDE. And looking at all the indicators, we were doing exceptionally well. Mr. Swirsky is here. I think if we have any questions, that look great. Thank you for your work on that. And with regard to informational items, we discussed a review process for the superintendent. The process will take a committee of 3, including Chair Kirby, members Oswald and Trinka. They will work on the superintendent evaluation with input from the rest of the board and the superintendent. We're moving to use a model proposed by the Minnesota School Board Association. Other informational items, I was shared that a tentative agreement has been reached with the paraprofessionals group and maintenance and operations group. Contracts are expected to be brought to the board in February. And that's all. I move the HR report.
Second.
It's been moved by Member Gorham, seconded by Member Oswald to accept the HR report. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting this report? Oh, Member.
Clarification, because I want to make sure we capture it, that actually the superintendent will be a part of the review committee, not, we won't be consulting him afterwards. I think that's an important consideration.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Then all in favor of accepting that HR report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then it passes unanimously. Next, we have the Education Committee report. Member Wilfold.
She had to wait till last this time.
Let's time me now. It's 5 to 9, so.
And the first shall be last.
Okay.
Oh, I have to get that.
Oh, my. Here I am. So, okay. So, this is the Education Committee report. And I have the opportunity to celebrate the Education Committee like maybe not a lot of other board members have, and that's because I've been an educator for so long. So many of the highlights we saw, it's hard for me to just do it as quickly as you because I feel so passionately about things that happen. So we started with the Assistant Superintendent Starseski's report, and she shared with us school visits this past month at Denfeld and Homecroft. And as a personal experience, I see that that's so important to our community, that they know our leadership gets out into the schools and they're present in all 13, so I thank you for that. She continued her report with us by sharing the full service community school updates, and we're going to get, as a board, we're going to be enlightened more about that on January 31st from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock right in our boardroom. And there will also be staff trainings for full community service during the day for other employees and staff in our district. So that's exciting. The full service community schools is one, too, that I hope our community embraces, works with us in committees to bring those to reality and work with us. We have a staff development day on Friday, September 26th. So if you are a parent, your student is going to stay home, and the staff is in a development. And in the elementary, it's going to be handled by the principals, and they're going to work on the new English language learner curriculum and also things I say to put in their toolbox. The high schools and the middle schools are going to be treated to what I know. I looked online and listened to some of Dr. Anthony Muhammad's conversations because I won't be there on Friday. I would like to, just like Member Oswald asked if she could be there, and I would have also liked to have been in presence as well. But it's going to be a presentation that focuses on school culture and climate. And I know sometimes our staff, would like at times to be able to do some of their own work, but I also think that as a teacher, I always appreciated the motivation and the inspiration that I was able to share and get from those presentations. So I think that concluded that portion of our Assistant Superintendent Starseski's report. So then we had this incredible opportunity to listen to Nathan Glockley, our principal from Stowe, and Lori Mitchell, a teacher of first and second grade, and they presented a PowerPoint that our community can look online. Isn't it online? Maybe? No?
It's on board book.
Okay, but is our community able to see it too? Okay, cool. I think that you would enjoy looking at the celebrations and the data and the things that the Stowe Improvement Committee put together. It is called the Record of Continuous Improvement Presentations, and it's presented by the school's Continuous Improvement Team. And just a couple of things I want to highlight. Lori Mitchell talked about the incredible staff at Stowe and that they celebrate the minutia. I thought that was inspirational. I also loved that Nathan Glockley shared with us to look beyond the data and that there's always a story to be told there. And I think that's important for all of us to look at as we look at those kinds of things. And I love Nathan Glockley's story about the fourth graders and how nervous people and families were about their 4-year-old being able to board a bus to attend our kind of new pre-kindergarten readiness, and that he created a fifth grade buddy program for the fifth graders to go to the schools and go to the 4-year-olds and walk them to the buses. So those were the highlights. There were many, and I feel bad that I can't share it all. So then we moved on to our advisory committee update, and that was where we got to meet Jason Crane, our special services director, and members of the committee that is called PAXI. And Jason brought with him parents that were leaderships on that committee. You're smiling at me because I know PAXI. And Kathy Marshall was the president, and she came, and Danny Dunphy was with us, and so was Luann Longan, and also Alana Oswald was able to be represented because she's on that committee, not just as the committee member, but also as our board rep, so that was really interesting. And hearing from our advisory was informative, and the opportunity is invaluable for board members to hear about the depth and all the elements that go into running an effective school system. We're a big school district, so we have lots of things. And I just want you to extend our appreciation again to your parent committee for attending the meeting and sharing with us. And we asked what we could do to help your committee and your program, and I loved what Kathy Marshall encouraged us as board members to visit the sites, and I want to do that, and she kind of gave us an open invitation, which is even better for me because then I don't need to always make an appointment, but we should. And Jason reminds us too that there's a great deal of information on the website under special services department. So if we were in need of policies or information, that will be there. So then we went on to pre-K, grade 3, leadership update. How am I doing? Too wordy? Keep going? Okay. Always. I could limit it. Okay. Yeah. We talked about pre-K through grade 3. It was great. I'll offer one thing. It said that the world's best workforce means that our students need to start before they reach kindergarten. But I also want to highlight that we are going to a staggered start, and that we are also improving our roundup, that we create a safe and welcoming environment. Okay. Okay, is that good? So then we're on to grant applications. Okay. Katie Oliver and Molly Fletcher are pursuing a grant that they submitted for the Academic Writing Center at Lincoln. That's all we're going to say about grants, right? Okay. Regulations. Dr. Carey spoke to us about curriculum. And this, I think we have something that we have to act on? No? So Dr. Carey, it was inside, Dr. Carey said that we're striking policy 6095R because it's outdated and we don't have a policy attached to it. So it's like not necessary, but it's in our documents. Our bylaws? Policy?
No,
okay.
policy.
Policy. Okay. Regulation. Okay. So we're striking that. And he just needed to cover that for us. And then we have policy 620, the credit for learning, that we are also deleting.
No.
We are not.
6098.
6098 is the deletion. And we are replacing it with policy 620.
Very good.
The credit for learning. We don't have weighted grades in our system, so we don't have to make a policy on that. Keep going. We do. We have to. Okay.
Why don't I? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I know it's a little, it's a lot for the first meeting. We do have to have a policy on it, but our policy is that we do not have weighted grades at the time. We could, with
Yes,
discussion in the
Yeah,
future.
I remember that.
But we do have to have a policy that says whether we do or whether we don't. So we do not, but we do need a policy.
We've got it. And I just know that 6098 is now contained in 6020.
Yes.
So we can delete the old policy, not to be redundant.
And this is the first reading, so we don't have to make any decision on that tonight. It will come up again.
I get to repeat this. All right. I will do a better job. Now we're on to action items. And we've got policy.
Those were action items.
Okay, we did that. Oh, see, if I was just on the wrong part of my.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you.
But now you have to do the resolution.
We do. Okay.
Which is exciting because it's grants.
Okay. So we have resolution E1-1835-18, the acceptance of grant awards to Duluth Public Schools. Okay, do I have that? Yes. What page is it on?
It's on page 32.
Thank you. Whereas Minnesota statute, that one?
Yes.
Whereas Minnesota statute 46.5.03 requires a school district to accept grants by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the grant in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described grant from said organization in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to this organization. I move resolution E1-1835-18 for the Duluth Public Schools.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Member Sandsted. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then it passes unanimously.
So we keep going to these?
Yeah, now you just talk through the rest and then you move the whole report.
So this one, please. So,
No, we've already done
okay.
extended field trips.
We have to do that.
So this one? Do I have to read that? Okay.
Extended field trips.
Okay. Extended field trips. We have Lakewood Elementary that went to Wolfridge, are going to Wolfridge. Fifth grade students from Lakewood Elementary School will be traveling to Wolfridge Environmental Learning Center in Finland, Minnesota from February 5th through the 7th. This trip will provide students with an experiential learning opportunity which will help them develop teamwork skills, personal growth, and cover several Minnesota science standards. The total cost of this trip is $6,700 and will be funded with student fees. I recommend that the Duluth School Board accept and approve this item. And then diploma? Okay. The following students have met all graduation requirements for the Duluth Public Schools and should be awarded a diploma. We have one this month, Zachary Krupke. It is recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the above diploma request.
That's good. Then you may want to mention the future items.
Okay, I keep thinking you're going to move that. Okay. And our future items, our career tech education, our CTE program update will come to us and present. Our Key Zone and True North AmeriCorps partnership is an update. Our secondary schedule task force update and policy updates is our future items. I move the Education Committee report for January 23rd, 2018.
Second.
Excellent. It's been moved and seconded to accept the education report as reported.
That was only 12 minutes.
Good. Any discussion?
Thank you.
Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then it is accepted unanimously. Any other special resolutions or questions or comments people want to make?
I move to adjourn.
I will accept the motion to adjourn by Dr.
Dr. Oswald.
Dr. Oswald.
Get an upgrade.
Excuse me, Member Oswald. The seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're done. Thank you.